with like an iconic silhouette, so that you'd be able to tell him if Smilez was over silhouette, you could tell by his ear lump, like his whiskers and his kind of like ear lumps alone, that it Smilez. So that was kind of the biggest challenge for me coming up with him. But just so you guys know, he's actually he's a fusion of a bunny and an axolotl. Bunnies, so I feel like bunnies, a lot of characters that are bunnies are really popular, and then axolotl is actually like my favorite reptile, or is it amphibian? I'm like, I always forget which one, but I really like axolotl. So what I did is I literally combined a rabbit and gave it like extra lumps. And I think what's always funny is when someone's like, is it fur or is it flesh? And I'm like, yes. And it's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know. But so that's basically where I kind of came up with like his head shape. So he kind of has like the rabbit extra lumps. And then with the tooth, I kind of just like made it so it wasn't I am a big fan of things being like asymmetrical, so different on so it's not even all the time. So that's why I kind of gave it an additional like divot in the one tooth, and then these like two little bottom teeth I just thought was kind of a nice touch. But yeah, that's basically like where his design came into play for that. Going through the history, Smilez was actually supposed to be part of a story I was coming up with called One Off. So his original name was actually One, and it kind of just went from there where I started developing him more and more. And then this is like I was telling you earlier, like I was gonna do a neon noir story. So I even had him in detective clothes, but he still had the thing where he hates wearing shoes. So he still had socks on, even with his detective clothes. But I just never I even explore like pushing his expressions and stuff in that like noir setting. But the more I thought about it, I was like, I kind of wanted to just be like this character that brings smiles to everyone. So I literally just named him Smilez with a Z. And that's now he's his Smilez. But I kept the one thing on his t-shirt just for that originally like designing him and all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of like his like slight history, and now he's here today, and it's like where his design comes from.
Yeah, one thing that I really noticed with this character is that smile is really infectious. I can't look at it without smiling too. What are some elements of the character design that you're most proud of?
I know like the big thing was finding something. So it's he has his own iconic shape, so I'm really proud of that. I mean, the fact he brings you a smile, like that's one thing I'm proud of. That every time someone sees him, it's like I just can't help but smile because he's so warm, and like I just want to smile along with him. So yeah, I'm definitely proud of the fact that it's like a brand new character with his own iconic shape. Because I never hear anyone like like sometimes you'll design a character like that looks like that guy, but blah blah blah. Like I've never gotten that with Smile, so I'm kind of proud of that. Like someone could easily be like, "That's Oswald, but he's orange," but no one's ever said that. Now someone's gonna say that. I don't know. I gave them ammo, but I think just like designing him and giving him personality, and then like I said, people doing fan art of him already, including like Jordan, rigging him. I mean, literally, I drew him once, and someone 3D modeled him like the next day. Like no joke. Like this was like modeled the next day, and I was like, dude, I just drew him like yesterday. So the fact that he does have like a lot of people already dig him and just like show you some of like even some other fan art of him has been kind of like I think what I'm most proud of, being a character designer and making a new character and stuff.
What is your favorite piece of fan art for Smilez?
I definitely like these sculptures, which I have in my apartment. So yeah, like I mean, of course I commissioned sculpture, but it was pretty awesome that someone actually sculpted like they're actually 3D in real life. So they're on my they're in my apartment now. So I think that's the one I really like the most. And then of course, other than that, like I have this dancing pixel fan art, which I really enjoy. So seeing him do his full personality in pixel art. Yeah, because like pixel art never gets old. It never gets old. Like I love pixel art.
Nick, is there anything that you want to share on your screen before we switch to Jordan's screen?
Sure. Just to like walk through people, because just thinking of like the big questions I get for what do you want to do, or what do you need to be able to do if you want to be a professional character designer. All this kind of stuff, like expression sheets and all this will help your portfolio. And then definitely like this kind of post page and showing you can actually technically do a turnaround correctly is very important if you do want to be a character designer. So I encourage you, for you guys, like turnarounds usually aren't the favorite thing to do, but they are very important. And just seriously make sure everything when you're doing it lines up. because so you like use your guides and make sure all the proportions are correct, because when someone decides to rig your character or wants to animate it, it'll look right when it's animated. So definitely make sure you get that skill down if you want to be a character
I've heard one of
designer.
the hardest things about drawing really simple or iconic 2D characters is getting the proportions right when you're doing a turnaround or just thinking about the volumes that are involved in the construction, because it's one of those things where if something's a little bit off, people notice.
Yeah, and just like a quick professional cheat, because everyone thinks you always have to draw from scratch, I start with the 3/4 and I draw on top of it as I rotate it around. It's just a quick little turnaround trick a lot of people don't. Because it's like, if we do a lot of stuff digital now anyways, just take advantage of the platform, the medium. Because that was just a mistake I'd always do, is like, I gotta redraw from scratch all the time. But it's like, no, you can literally like, draw the front view from the 3/4. You just, shift things over. But yeah, the head's probably the most important part for sure. I feel like, because it's the most identifiable part of the character, is the face and stuff.
All right, so this is the character design. We're going to switch to Jordan's screen so we can have a look at the character rig. So Jordan, while you're being switched over, I want to ask you, how did you come to learn about this character, and what was the process like for rigging it?
Yeah, so when I originally found this character, I was searching just through the internet looking for turnaround characters and making a big folder of them. And you scroll for ages and you go really long time, and you're just like, there's nothing here that I like, and it's like really picking up, and then you see the one that it's the golden nugget, the golden ticket, and it was the Smilez turnaround. So I went down the Nic's page, and I went through all of his designs, and I started looking more at Smilez and saving them all, and was just like, this is amazing. And I just started building it. I originally built it for myself, just to do for a show reel. And then my friend Kason was just like, hey, can I use this for an animation? And I was just like, not ready for animation, but I'll make it ready for you. So he took it, done an amazing animation. And then when it was finished, blew up. A lot of likes on the internet, a lot of people noticed it. Nic noticed it, and I was just like, hey, can I make a professional one?
I had a tear roll down when I saw it animate. I was
like, yeah. So I was like, can I make a professional one and put it online for free? And he was just like, sure, yeah, totally, go for it. So I built it completely from scratch, just rebuilt it over the months, because by that point it had been 5 months since I built the original, and I had a lot more experience on it in rigging. And yeah, here he is.
And Nic, you said that a lot of people have approached you in the past to ask if they could have permission to rig their your characters. Is this the first one that you've actually seen as a completed rig?
Yeah, this is like the first. Like I said, I'm trying to remember. I think it was someone else in your group, right, Jordan, who hit me up to actually animate it. I think, unless it was you asked me to rig it.
That might have been me asking to rig it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was you. Yeah. So you hit me up and you're like, "Is it cool if I rig Smilez?" And like, honestly, because like I've had it happen a few times where like characters I've designed in the past, someone's like, "Hey, is it cool if I animate?" And I'm like, "Sure. Just tag me, as long as when it's done, please tag me, so one, I could see it, and two, I get credit for the original design." But yeah, you guys are the first to ever like I saw it completely finished. Usually it's like I don't see anything, so I'm just like, okay, cool. But yeah, and I'll never forget, because I was like up, I think because different time zones. It went up at like 6 a.m. my time or something, like, is when I saw it. And I was just like, I was getting tired because I think I was doing late hours. I saw it animated. I was like awake again. I was like, wait, what? Like, there's actually animated background. It's rigged. Like, it was surprising. I was like, holy crap, they actually like did it. So yeah, no, this is the first one I've seen like completely animated. Which is that's, like I said, that's another proud feeling of like being a character designer, is like seeing someone actually take the time to like fully rig your character and animate it, when all you said is like, yeah, you can use it.
So speaking of the rig, Jordan, can you take us on a tour of the different parts of the Smilez rig?
Sure. So this is Smilez. Here's his original. They look pretty much identical. He's just more refined. Has all of his pieces. Like the teeth don't even connect on this one. I don't think there's even there's no cutters. It's just a straight flat line.
So that was the original rig that you made before you built the more refined one.
Yeah, this was basically just a recreation of the turnaround to post on to put on a show reel. And this one more refined, built properly for animation for students, as simple as I could make it. So you see, he's properly cut this time. Hands. Let me see here. There we go. Let's do a little sword. You know, he has articulated fingers, so you can hold objects properly. And you can. Hand is completely cut out, so perfect hand, cut in, stuff like that. The mouth shapes. Let's see. Have a whole row of them. Have a happy, because he's smiling. Have a neutral and a sad, which I feel like won't get used that much since he's literally called Smilez. Yeah, so a lot of things, like I think was the original eyebrows, stuff like that. The original was just flat eyebrows. He had like no controls for his face. Yeah, no, he doesn't even have deformers. Oh yeah, he has substitutions. Was his original face, and now he's got properly rigged eyebrows, so you can frown.
That's cool.
He has wrinkles.
The lid goes over the eye too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he has wrinkles for his face. He has eyelids, so you can close stuff. Yeah, pretty much the whole thing is fully movable, fully rigged. Even his little one, you can even rotate if you want to get really nice angles. So say if he's at an angle like this, you can stretch it properly and give him a bit of a rotation. Let's see, we have controls for the arms. So if this arm is hidden behind his body, you can grab it, move the whole thing. Let's see, he's got, generally his feet kind of stay the same. They never have a line here. But if you want to reach really nice angles, you have this little controller to bring back the original line. I think I have a walk over here that does it. So you can see like this. Yeah, and then some of my favorite bits are his chin. So his chin is a copy, his shadow is a copy of his chin connected by the same deformer. So you never have to move the shadow. It's just always there, it's always attached. He has cutters for his sleeves, so there's always a nice cut into the shirt, so you can get these really beautiful, not to toot my own horn, these really nice 3D feeling kind of shots. Yeah, he's a very simple character, but you can really push him as far as you need to. You know, like he's flat. His arms are flat completely per design, but he's got these nice. You can articulate his arms properly, so they have muscle definition and connect properly. Yeah.
That's so cool. I love all the poses that you ran this rig through. Do you feel like that's an important part of the rigging process to make sure that these characters can be posed in the ways that would be needed to in a production?
Oh, definitely. I think one of my supervisors in my studio, Boulder, make sure it hits what you need to hit, because what's the point of the rig if you can't hit what you need? So that's why those pose sheets that Nic has with all of the different expressions are super helpful, because once you build it, you can go through and you can build all of these little poses and make sure that it hits it. You don't have to do it for all of them, but it's very handy just to make sure it works, because you don't want to give it to somebody who has an amazing idea and they're like, oh, I want to use this rig, and then they can't do the idea because it just doesn't hit properly.
So with that in mind, I wanted to ask Nick, what kinds of considerations do you keep in mind if you're designing a character with cutout animation in mind?
Actually, it's funny because I started as a Flash animator first, so I still like it's built within me. Like usually when I'm designing the characters, I do try to keep in mind of like keeping certain things on certain parts of the limb. Like for example, like let's say if I was designing a character, I wouldn't want to have those like any kind of cloak where it's on the shoulders, because you would constantly have to like deform the cloak. I know like Harmony and stuff could do that better now, but you know, like back in my day with just Flash, like it was like I had to keep in mind with like any kind of cloth that interacted with joints. So I would try to specifically design any type of clothing to not be over a joint of, you know, like the arms or legs. I do try to keep in mind of like the shape language to keep it simple, so you can I prefer like, you know, like with rigging in mind to have the character simple, and then you could push it later for poses, like, you know, special poses. So that's why, you know, Smilez even himself is such a simple design. But yeah, I try to keep in mind of like, yeah, mostly like clothing and limbs, you know, making sure like the mouth can work within the space. So I definitely try to give them enough headspace for the mouth as to be as big as I'd like it to be without having to break the, you know, the skull or the head shape. Unless, you know, I do want that like cartoony look where you do like, you know, stretch and squash the head, which I think I do more these days, where I like squashing just everything. But I do keep in mind for the rig that you know, like you can rotate the arms and legs or the torso as much as possible without it breaking, just by design alone. So that's kind of the stuff I do keep in mind still to this day, because like I have done rigs myself too. It's just built in you forever.
And you are by trade a storyboard artist currently.
Yeah. So yeah, I started in small studios I was in small studios for 8 years, but being in small studios, I had to do everything for not even get paid right for one of the positions. I didn't find that out till way later, but I've literally done everything to make a cartoon. So I was a Flash animator, I was a Flash character rigger, I was a director, storyboarded, I did backgrounds, I've composited, I've even had to do a schedule. Like I've actually done, like if someone was like, Nick, you need to make a cartoon, I could literally make a cartoon, but I know how many people take, so I would never be like, I'm gonna make a cartoon. Which is like, when people are like, I'm gonna make a 7-minute pilot, I'm like, Godspeed. Because I'm like, you're gonna need a team. But no, it's been cool learning all that stuff though, because as I storyboard now, just doing one of them, I keep that in mind when I storyboard. So I'm like, if I don't put in this background, it's gonna, you know, mess up the background artist. If I don't, you know, draw the poses clean enough, that'll mess up the character designer. So I think of that stuff since I've done it all. So that does kind of come into play even now. So having those skills is kind of cool to, you know, have that like just constant, like was it the like roller deck of skills? Like I kind of have all that, so it's paying off. But doing one thing too is also just really nice.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of the things that I hear from storyboard artists is just having knowledge of the rest of the production pipeline can really help a lot. And from animators having experience with rigging, or rigging artists having experience with animation, all of that tends to make not just it easier for yourself, but easier for other people down the line when you hand off your piece, and then the other person doesn't look at it and say, "Well, what is this?"
Yeah, no, it's true. I've had designers, you know, on previous shows and even on my show now, like, Nick, I know you took extra time to draw that background for me. I appreciate it. I'm like, yeah, no problem. I didn't sleep. I'm glad I could help. You know what I mean? It's just yeah, because I know if I just draw, you know, panel with just characters, no perspective at all, you know, grid or anything, it messes up everyone after me. So I do try to keep that in mind. But yeah, no, it definitely helps to know that. Not only that, like when, you know, because my end game is to be a showrunner one day, knowing that whole process of like, I know I'll never be that person that's like, can't we just do this like by pushing a button? Because it's like, no, I know the process. Like, I literally had a client back in the day say like, can't we just turn the dial to slow down the animation? And I was like, but like me and the other guy were like, the dial? Like, it's like that's
Every
not how
frame
it
is a
works.
pose that someone moved.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's in the computer, right? Like, that's a like that happens a lot too, where they think just because it's digital art, we press a button, and it's like it's not how art works. Like, it's not a button. But yeah, having all that like the knowledge of different positions really does help.
Yeah. There tends to be a knowledge that there tends to be a misconception that we run into too, where people will say, okay, well, can you get a trial for Harmony, and will it just do all the animation itself? And it's like, no, it requires so much skill and craft and talent. So, Jordan, I wanted to ask you, what do you keep in mind when evaluating character designs to work with?
Mainly simplicity. You know, you can do a lot with a little, but you can do a little with a lot. You know, if you see shows like Archer or Q-Force, any of those like shows, it's like they're so highly detailed that the animation is lifting my hand, and like the head is in the same place and the mouth is moving. You know, there's so much to move that the animators can possibly do it. But when you have such a simple character that's basically just a circle and a couple of cylinders, they can push it as much as they can, and make something amazing out of it.
I feel like you almost have a triangle of detail on the character design, the amount of actual animation and budget, and you sort of have to pick two in terms of how you want your show to look. Even if you're using cutout animation or other time-saving techniques, it still is a craft. It still requires time, and someone still has to animate the thing. So I wanted to ask Jordan, how is this project similar to or different from other projects that you've completed in the past?
A lot more experienced currently. So when I've done my previous rigs, like the old Smilez and Raph, the Angel rig as well that I have up on Gumroad, I had no professional experience in rigging at all. And then at the exact same time, I think on nearly the same week, I started in Boulder Media as a rigger, and I also started as a rigger on a pilot show for a YouTuber. And it was just mountains of information coming in, two very different styles. One was like Mickey Mouse squash and stretch and super cartoony. One was hyper detailed, very very heavy. And they kind of become the same thing. Like if you were to take one and the other and be like rig a character, they both take the same amount of time, even though they're very vastly different in details. They take the same amount of time. Like this Smilez took about a month and a half of rigging on the weekend to make, and about the same time for the pilot show and about the same time for in work. All very different styles, all exact same amount of time and effort and configuring and working out what cuts what does what. Previously, I had no experience with that. So with Raph, very limited hand movements, very limited cutters on her shirt. I don't have the rig to show. I should probably I'll find it. But there's kind of like a second nature to it now, especially when you use designs like this. So I'm touching the wrong keyboard. There we go. So you know, you make a design and that's it, or is it? You know, you copy and paste it. You create new colors for it. You have a brand new character in less time because you've already built one. You have the template. Before it was just make it by yourself, make it by hand, spend months making a character, and now it's just like, no, you can make one and you can rework it. You know, it's become more efficient over time.
How long did the current version of the Smilez rig take in terms of hours?
So I think it was. I keep touching the wrong keyboard. They're both beside each other. I think the original took like 5 hours. It was an extremely quick rig to make, and the new version took maybe 15 to 20 hours altogether. A lot of that was revisions. You build it, and then you do the turnaround, and then you try and move a component like the arm. I was like, oh, it doesn't work. So then you need to go back and you need to fix it. Like I think his ear was one of the pieces that it just ends. You know, it's like it's at the bottom, and you never have to see that because his ears are always behind him. But it was one of those things of like, do I go back and I fix it, or do I just keep it as it is? And it was kept as it is. It was a lot easier with GP because he's all black, so it doesn't really matter. They all cut into each other.
And Nick, I wanted to ask you, how long did it take for you to come up with the turnaround and design for Smilez?
Ooh, so turnarounds. I can usually knock out turnarounds maybe like, let me say 3-4 hours max. Because like I said, I'll draw the 3/4 view and I literally just draw on top of it and shift over things. It's kind of like the that's what you know, being an animator first, I could think like how it would rotate. So I can usually knock out turnarounds. Yeah, probably like maybe about 4 hours for a turnaround. The poses though, because like I was actually having to sit down and think about it and pushing it. I think maybe that was like a work day, maybe like 8 hours of me just like messing around with the proportions and stuff for his posing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think it was like I think it was like 6. I think I did them on stream. Yeah, it's like something like when you have to stream and draw, your focus is a little more for like, okay, I gotta keep drawing because people are watching me. Whereas like if I'm just doing it alone. So yeah, maybe about like 6-7 hours for the pose page. So I guess altogether maybe like 12 hours for both.
Kind of holds you accountable, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, like whenever I'm shooting on Twitch, like I gotta keep drawing. That's what they're here for. But not only that, just being a storyboarder too, forces you to draw quickly. So I still have friends that get mad at that I draw quick, but it's like I don't know, it's just I have to most of the time. So plus like Smilez is a simple design. That was my goal, was to have them be simple, but then push the poses, which might take a little longer. Like
I want to ask you both, what are some common misconceptions that viewers might have about cutout characters?
Do you want to go first, Jordan? I feel like you do it more than I do currently.
Sure. So I think I touched on it before, but one of the big, I keep touching the wrong keyboard. One of the big misconceptions cut out primarily on the like from what was the show? Foster's and stuff like that. It was like very flat. Like the characters always run off screen and they always stop and stand and talk to each other and stuff like that. Like around that era of early 2000s, a lot of cutout cartoons when it started getting really big was very flat and not dynamic. They had strong shapes to keep them like afloat.
Okay, I think we lost Jordan for just a second. Nick,
so,
while Jordan is away, Jordan's back,
you can really
while
push it. Like
we're just making sure that he's connected.
Very flat. And he's just shape based, but that doesn't
it's
mean
fighting.
The connection can't push it. You can't get dimensions with like foreshortening and angles. You just have to really get into it and know what you're doing. You know, like this is literally just like the knee. I just turned off the leg and then pushed the knee up, and it creates this like really strong like dimension of foreshortening. His body's facing this way, his head's facing this way, and then his hair's facing this way. Everything works to like really push the design. And I feel like a lot of people don't see that. Gumball was very good at it. They pushed the design a lot with like very long angles and having these flat characters just really just works very well.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny
Nick,
because
I hand it off to
sometimes
you.
as someone who runs social media for Toon Boom, I'll see some people gripe about a cutout show, except that I know that it's not cutout.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
was hand drawn.
Yeah, it's just limited hand drawn, but then they say it's cut out because it moves so smooth or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of like, yeah, because me being a cutout animation for animator first, I would often get annoyed when people are the misconception that you can't do good animation with cutout would always bother me. And people would always be like, oh yeah, because like when you do cutout, all it is like this puppet looking tweening stuff. And I'm like, no, like if you want cutout animation to be good, you have to do the poses yourself to make it good. Like, it's like people are like, you can never do anything good with cutout. It's like you have to put in the work to draw those extra hand poses, to put in those like extra key poses to make your character move in a like fun and exciting way. Like the fact that like those new Mickey shorts that are done in Harmony and they move so extremely and goofy, it shows it can be done. You just have to put the drawings in to make it happen. So I think that was the big thing that would always like kind of upset me as an animator, is people saying like you can't do anything good with cutout. Like it has to be traditional. I'm like, there's traditional stuff that's not even good. Like watching a lot of those 80s cartoons, it wasn't the best 2D animation, but yeah, you can do something just as smooth and well animated and cutout as just traditional. You just have to draw more and animate it, and finesse it more. So I think that was the one thing that I think I'd get upset about. It was almost like kind of offensive to me. I was like, how dare you? I drew 30 hands to make that animation work. You know what I mean? So I think that was my
Yeah,
biggest
and
one.
it's not a question of like, is one technique better or worse? They're different graphs.
Yeah.
And they both require skill and knowledge of how characters are supposed to look and move and timing.
Yeah. And a lot of it's determined by timing and budget. Like sometimes like I was working on a show that was cut out animation, and I remember there was a few times as a director I was giving notes and I was like, man, why do they keep using this one hand that doesn't work for the pose? And then the producer was like, Nick, like they only have a week to animate this. And I was like, never mind, throw away all my notes. I was like, I don't care. It's only going on YouTube. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, I'm not going to make these animators kill themselves. Like, I didn't realize they only had like a week to animate, 3-minute episode. And they have to use, what's in the limited library of the character rig. Like, it just needs to be done because like it's such a quick turnaround. So I was like, I'm an animator. I get it. I'm not going to be that guy that's like, well, this hand should be this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, pretty sure there's not kids out there going frame by frame like, unsubscribe. This is the wrong hand. You know what I mean? So, yeah, and I think people need to realize that too. Like, no matter like sometimes even if the animation isn't like up to par, like not up to your standards, like there is a lot of work and people, that put blood, sweat, and tears to get it done. And it's sometimes it's just there's not enough time or budget or it's just got to be done. So.
Yeah, and even people who work on the shows that you might like, a lot of them tend to also work on shows that you like.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, I don't think people understand sometimes.
Jordan, I wanted to ask you, do you have any advice for artists who want to rig their own characters?
Stick with it. Don't get bored. When you start rigging, it's such a steep hill when you get into it. Like it took me like 2 months to understand what a cutter was, and then took probably even longer to understand how to use it properly. And now it's just, what do I need to do? I need to cut this out. You can do it instantly, like, yeah, it's a steep learning hill that really annoys you, I think, at the start, but it becomes your best friend after a while. I have a friend from college who started doing animation course, Adam's Animation Academy, done rigging. He's doing rigging currently. And I met him the other day and he was just like, Jordan, it's painful. I don't know what I'm doing. It's so difficult. I was like, it'll get easier. Don't worry. So don't lose hope.
And Nick, I also wanted to ask you, do you have any advice for artists that want to design their own characters?
Well, What's it? I know my biggest thing. What I tell people: try to find your voice when you're designing characters. I think a lot of times people get impatient with the fact that maybe they don't have their own style right away, and that just comes with time. Like, I mean, my style now came from a hybrid of working on a lot of the shows I worked on. So like Teen Titans Go, Trolls, even the Casa Grandes now, and just like they all Frankenstein together. But like that's what I tell people too. If you're trying to find your own style for character design, take styles you like and you do kind of Frankenstein pieces of it. Like if you like the eyes of this style, they're like the shape language of this style, and then like combining them, that'll kind of help you find your own style, because it's essentially taking a lot of things you like and then combining it into to make it your own. So and then just just keep drawing is what I tell people all the time. And don't if you're ever looking online, because I feel like this happens a lot, to get inspired, like if you see someone who draws is a better artist than you, I tell them to don't let it discourage you, let it motivate you. So if you're like, I mean, that's how I am. Like, I'll be like, man, this guy draws better than me. So I'm like, I gotta draw more. So like, don't let it discourage you. Just like, let it keep pushing you forward and progressing yourself. And don't just have patience too sometimes. I get that question a lot, is like, am I too old to be in animation? It's like, no, because they don't ask that. So you can be, as long as you can draw and get the job done on time, you could be any age to join animation. Like, I've literally known guys, this is their first gig on my show and they're almost 40. So it's like, age is not a factor. So if you're ever freaking out about that, just don't. Everyone has their own pace and path to get to where they're going. So that's what I always tell people.
And Jordan, where can artists and animators find the Smilez rig?
They can find it on Gumroad. Actually, don't. You probably have the link somewhere. It's a Gumroad, Jordan Beatty. I think is might be. If you search up Smilez and RAF or AF, they both pop up. They're now in the discovery, because you have to wait a long time for them to show up in the discovery. But yeah, you can find them there.
Do we have the link to the animation? Because I feel like we should link them to that too.
We're going to track that down and put in the link afterwards. Absolutely.
Gotcha. They can see what they can do with the rig. It's like, you can do this.
Yeah. And Jordan, I just wanted to ask if there are any other poses that you wanted to go through to show off to the audience right now.
I think I've got you all. Yeah, I have a recreation from the animation. Cassandras, where he jumps up into the air very excitingly. Leaning on the wall, he's like at a nice concert. His friend was just on a gig. He's clapping along. Very heartily taking charge, going for a nice match. And then I assumed he's on a surfboard about to smash into something. But yeah, those are the ones that I prepared.
Yeah, and I think one thing I really like about the character is that the head is so big and so communicative. You sort of get all of the feelings from this character immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend that's like, Nick, I could tell your style because you draw big mouths and eyes. And I was like, thanks. But it's like, that's where all the expression comes from. So, I mean, that's kind of makes sense that kind of be the biggest feature is like the mouths and eyes.
That's why I kept the mouths as simple as I could. Like, everything's like one object, but just to like, because they're already so like expressive. But I kept the tongue movable, in case anyone wants to push it. Proposes like this, like he's screaming with his tongue in the air. Ah! Yeah.
And it's such a subtle thing, but it adds a lot.
Yeah, like even if the mouths are the same, like between poses it goes close, close, open, open. Like if you move the tongue, they just feel so different. It feels so alive when the character's talking.
And while we're still inside, like the rig, I want to ask, what's your approach to organizing the node view and keeping all of the different elements easily accessible to animators?
Yeah, so
I'm always intimidated by that thing. I'm like, Nodes.
Yeah, so a lot of my rigging comes from, so a lot of it came from YouTube, you know, Onion Skin and Ollie Putland and Stylus Wumble and Z. Very different areas, Canadian animators, Australian, Canadian riggers, Australian riggers. And then when I finally met an Irish rigger, Al White, he's amazing. But this is like how he showed me how to do it in college. He came in and he'd done a course, and he separated like this, where everything is in a normal group and then in a composite group. So for the animators, it's simple. You go into the animation, you have the drawings, the deformers, and then the pegs. You shouldn't be here. And then all of the rigging is down here in this separate group, which I think I enjoy. I think like if you're solely an animator, it's really nice and simple. It's very first time going into the rig. It's very like head, mouth, ear, eyes. You know what everything is. For experienced animators, I have a friend called Rebecca who's from Mercury Filmworks. She hates my rigs because she likes picking stuff apart and she prefers them all in the same area. She hates like folders and groups. Like I basically live off groups and have like line cutters and all these different like things. So if you have an arm cutting into an arm, instead of just rigging it every time, you just connect like a cutter group onto it and it works. So it's
Was that Rebecca
probably,
Kartsmark, by the way?
yes, it is.
So I want to just mention that Mercury released a series of shorts on their YouTube channel, and one of the directors featured in it was Rebecca. So
Yeah.
after this stream, definitely check that out.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
I need to check those out myself, actually.
Join her Discord as well. She always posts all of her drawings about the shorts and stuff. But we're both working on that side project for the YouTube with the pilot show. And every time I give her a rig, I'm just like, I messaged her the other day because I was giving her a new rig, and I was just like, I assume you don't want everything in groups. She was like, please don't do it. So yeah, it's built for new animators. It's built for students because when you first drop into the node view, you're just like, I don't know what's going on. But this is like the simplest way I could think of to organize it. You know, everything has a connection. The body goes up into different sections. In case you want to animate certain parts of the body, the legs are connected from the bottom, so you can tween it like this. Hands, actually, I don't know. Hands have double connection, so you can connect from the elbow. So if you want to rotate from a joint, or they have one from the wrist. So if you want to lock a hand to a table, you can rotate from the wrist, and then you can rotate from the sleeve, and then connect them afterwards. Just to make it easier on yourself, because locking stuff down is a pain.
And Jordan, we got a few questions in the chat about where did you learn how to rig? I know you mentioned a few YouTubers that you followed and some colleagues that had taught you, but are there any other resources that you would recommend for anyone curious about getting into rigging?
So there is, I never took it myself, but there's the Toon Boom rigging course, where I think Matt Watts, I don't know if he still does it, but Matt's an amazing rigger. I have some of his rigs through unknown channels, and they're amazing to look at. Adam's Animation Academy, I've taken his animation course, but he gives you some rigs during it that I went through and I picked through. So I'm sure his rigging is amazing. He also does advanced rigging courses now. I think that's it off the top of my head. Most of it is YouTube. It's a lot of YouTube over the span of a year, meshing everyone's rigs together and just picking them apart. Like finding, like even if you get like an interview for a studio and they give you a rig, keep the rig. Like, don't just throw away the rig once you're finished with the test. Like, go through it, look at all the stuff that's in it, see how they make stuff. And like,
I mean, it's a resource. It shows you how it was made too.
Yeah, just don't leak it or you might get in trouble.
Oh, yeah,
That's true.
keep it to yourself.
Yeah, keep it for yourself. Oof.
And Nick, I wanted to ask you, were there any resources on character design that you'd recommend?
I know the biggest one I always tell people is Pinterest. I'll literally type in something for reference, and Pinterest just has like an endless library of references. But I think a lot of time, like, there's a bunch of courses you could take through, like, was it like concept art design? Schoolism has character design classes. Actually, it's kind of cool. Like, a lot of artists, even, like, if you follow like Aaron Blaze or anyone like that, like, the cool thing is a lot of people are starting to have their own courses, so you can literally like look up your favorite artists and see if they have a course and if they're teaching character design. So that's a really good reference too. I know Steven Silver is a big one. So like, I think I studied some of his stuff when I was first starting, just to even the simple trick of like proportion. So like everything's not even from head to toe, like having that like the 3 different sections. So small stuff like that. But
he did a ton of character designs too.
Yeah, exactly. Character design challenge. That's a huge one because they have their own library of like archives that you can look up references up. So yeah. Character design challenge, and you can participate like once a month too if you want, but that's a huge one. So I definitely recommend that site.
All right, so we have only a few minutes left, so I just wanted to ask each of you if you have any projects that you want to talk about or any links to your work that you'd want to promote. I'll start with Jordan. Jordan, is there anything that we want to direct viewers to?
Nothing that's not NDA, but LS Mark, YouTubers doing a pilot. I rigged the 2 main characters on it. It's still in the works, but if you want to go follow him on Twitter, you can probably keep along with the pilot, and see it when it eventually comes out. And
what is the Twitter account?
For the rigs. LS Mark. Capital L, capital S, Mark, one word.
And Nick, I first of all would just recommend everybody check out the 90-page slide deck that he made about the fundamentals of storyboarding, because I think that that's just a fantastic resource. Is there anything else that you want to direct our viewers to?
Sure. The cool thing about my name, it's pretty easy to find me since it's spelled Nicparris, Nic Parris. So you can literally find me easy, which is scary and helpful at the same time. But I did recently just put up, if you go to my Instagram, which is @ParrisNick, one word, so ParrisNic. I actually just put up all my links on one of those link trees. So if you need to get to anything that you want to find linked, including my Twitch, Twitter, the Gumroad, it's all on one page now. So if you head over there and click on that, and it's on my Twitter too, in my bio, but it's pretty easy to find me, which is very good. But otherwise, yeah, it's pretty nice. But otherwise, project-wise, I swear I'm trying to get this webcomic off the ground, and I've already started a page for Smilez and Moxie on Webtoon. So if you want to check it out there, the page is up. I just haven't done a chapter yet, but I swear I'm trying to get that off the ground. It's just storyboarding life is a busy one.
All right. Thank you so much, Nick and Jordan, for showing off this character design and rig. We'll be linking to Jordan's Gumroad page in the chat where you can download this character. And if you'd like to try out the Smilez rig, but you don't have Harmony, you can download a fully featured trial of Harmony Premium that you can use for free for 21 days at toonboom.com. So I'd recommend just, if you don't already have it, you can try Harmony Premium and move the character around, see what makes it tick. And if you enjoyed today's show, on Thursday, we'll be hosting a panel discussion that you will not want to miss. It'll be a discussion about video game development using 2D characters and character animation. So until next time.